pressurizing China and India not to for a climate change, support climate change, because the 20% has already done that, affecting the environment of the world, and now they are pressurizing India and China not to do that. Isn't that injustice for them?
Well, it is, because only a few years ago, when England and America were big producers and factory-based, they were actually producing a lot more output and a lot more, bad stuff for the environment and clearing and all that sort of stuff than anyone else. So it's a bit hypocritical. The whole point about globalisation is, if you look at it in terms of fire or nuclear power, it depends how you control it. Fire is very beneficial. There's lots of great things about it. It keeps you warm, it's energy, but if it's out of control, it can destroy and burn stuff. So the whole concept of globalisation should be about how to sustain everything and control things so everyone can benefit. I know it's a utopian and positive thinking, rose-coloured glasses, but it's not going to benefit everyone, and until there's a move made to encourage sharing across the board, there's always going to be people opposing globalisation, and I think it should be questioned, definitely.
Thank you.
Yes, any more questions? Yeah, Sean.
Sorry, if you've analysed the pros and the cons of globalisation in and out, and I was just wondering, why is it so difficult for every business analyst to put an end to poverty?
Why is it that there's still poverty in the world today, and you've analysed the pros and the cons of globalisation, and all I see, even in London, is poverty still exists?
Exactly, because nothing is for free. If people make money, they don't want to give something away for free. They want you to earn it. So if people see someone sitting on the footpath, they won't give them money, but if you're busking and playing music and they're getting something out of it, they'll throw 50p in a hat. That's the mentality of human beings. They don't want a multinational is not going to go, after going to all the effort of seeking cheap labour and resources in order to make profits for their shareholders, and go, we might just help out this person who hasn't actually worked for us here. That's not how business works, and that's where the mentality needs to change. Because if people got something for free, there'd be no incentive to get workers.
I also want to add to that, Sean, is that education is one thing that's lacking. Where people are, held back in repression of education and knowledge, that they fight for what they believe is right, they'll constantly be abused. It's almost like an infant industry. When you protect something long enough, it becomes used to being protected and constantly fed. But when you open it to trade, it learns how to be innovative. It learns how to fight for what it belongs to. So poverty is a choice by some nature, and people can make a difference themselves too. But political leaders need to make a change as well. They need to make freedom of speech. Education needs to be readily available. People need to have jobs. These are political leaders who are holding back a lot of this poverty.
Can I add up on that as well, please? When we was talking about political leadership, I had a good video up, but unfortunately the internet is not working. I'm going to show you that as well. I'm talking about here is, no offense to any Pakistani over here. Barack Obama in 2008 has mentioned the name of Karachi as well when he was talking about terrorism. However, he hasn't said anything against Pakistan so far. It's the global market. Right? Profitability comes up on globalization base. It's not just they think in one way, they have to actually think about mutual benefits at the same time.
Can I have one question?
Sorry.
One question, please, from here.
Yes. Sorry, what you said and what about the pros and cons of globalization? I find it very difficult to believe that most developed, underdeveloped countries in Africa and the rest, they will have problems and nobody gives a damn about it. But recently, Greece now, they are owing the UK some money, and the whole EU, they are holding a meeting to try to solve the problems. Why don't they do such things to the African countries that there's poverty, and we keep saying that there's globalization?
Well, I tell you one, I'll make a quick comment about that. I always felt that the future of an economic powerhouse will be in Africa. As these leaders in Africa, and there's some small countries in Africa who are starting to take this leadership role, who will start dominating the continents of the world. hold the natural resources, you hold the right population. Imagine a continent that is similar to the EU, where the African economy is working towards one global achievement, and that's to protect its own nature, just like everybody else is. Where the EU is doing that, the North American Agreement is doing that, Asian is doing that, why can't Africa do that? You've got the strength, you've got the knowledge, you've got the power, you've got the resources, you've got the beauty. I tell you what, I'd like to see that, and I'd like to be alive to see that day, and I think that political leaders are the ones that need to make the change.
Just one thing onwards from this, just a quick one.
Question as well?
Shall I just finish up? I've just shown earlier on about China going to Africa as well. So obviously they have seen the resources available there, all kinds. So they are trying to achieve something in Africa. You will see coming up in the future changes very quickly. It's the globalized market, as I said. It will take time, but it will affect in a positive manner, slowly, but it will.
Can we do last question, please, quickly? You want to ask a question, sir?
Yes.
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, your presentation was really brilliant. Some of the things that you have actually analyzed, especially the pros there, I would agree with you that businesses, countries, national economies, customers, consumers, okay, they actually stand to benefit quite a lot from a globalized market. But it is easy to say than done. What do you actually think? What I mean here, businesses are really finding it difficult for them to be able to implement some of the things that would make them realize the benefits of globalization. What do you actually think are the forces that are impeding these businesses to be able to implement the forces of globalization so that we realize what you people have done there? That is the first thing. Mr. Chairman, please, if you can allow me to make an addendum to what my brother said there, to make a contribution. Some of the things that our brothers have presented there are really ideal things. That is, if the globalized market should be realized, these are some of the some of the benefits that businesses, consumers, and national economies stand to benefit. But we are not yet there. We're working towards there. If we're eventually there, theory says that is what will come out. But is it easy for us to be there, looking at really what is happening in the economy or in the various countries? That's why I put the question to my brothers. What are the forces you really think would impede the realization of globalized benefits? Thank you.
Technology is extremely important. Globalization basically highly driven by technology. It's communication, the ability for innovation. You can even see a difference between public and private schools in the UK. Schools that don't have access with one computer per student affects their ability for people to thrive and whatever. So on a global level, a lot of it's going to come down to communication. If something happens to those satellites up in the sky, and instantly there's no internet, or something happens to all electricity in the world and you can't plug a computer in, people are going to have to go to a point where they can communicate, still work effectively and negotiate without having, and actually having to travel to where those operations are in another country and understand the culture they're operating in. At the moment it can all be done from a very safe place, sending out a few people just to source. So that's where a lot of it is, because it's it's driven by profits and all that kind of thing. You've got to work into the fact that there is a risk in the future that if communication levels break down or electronics break down, there's going to be another way to have to go about conducting your business, and that is where there is a fault with globalisation that relies so heavily on technology in order for it to function properly. Because if people had to spend 18 hours flying to Australia to get a message instead of sending an email, that's going to be a huge cost, but they actually still set up operations over there.
We're going to take a last discussion from the gentleman over there. Yeah, Baba, please.
I just wanted to make sure, Sam, before I take that.
Yeah.
Did you get your answer?
Yeah.
Because
technology is a very big issue.
You mentioned technology and communication.
It's all about communication, really. It's not about the time frame. We've got to wait for the time.
Yes.
The right time to slightly become.
Please, yes.
Good morning to you. I've actually enjoyed your presentation.